It's an independent publishing house which is run by a very small team, myself, Mridula, and a couple of friends. So, I welcome you all to today's event, which I don't define as an event, rather. I would rather say that it's a a celebration of our passion to create, to write, to express in words what we think and all the emotions that plays in our mind. Now, talking about today's poet, whose book we are going to launch, is, to tell you the truth, he is my school friend, Debashish De. But larger than life, and he actually spent a larger than life himself, being a wanderer throughout the world, in different profession, in different, going through different experiences, and he has done a lot of things, which, I mean, throughout today's event you might be knowing, glimpses of it you will come to know. But finally he has come out with his debut collection of poetry. It's called The Age of Listening. That was very interesting. When he first came with this proposal of coming out with this book, I thought Age of Listening is something very unique. I mean, people listen, but whether there should be an age, E-D-G-E-E. What is this age of listening? But then I found out, went through his manuscript, I get to know that, okay, this is something very rare and very unique. And this is all what, even as a publishing house, even as a writer myself, and when I read literature as such, I always wonder what is this literature or art, so-called, contributes to the world, to this universe, or to the civilization of human beings. I always felt that it's the unique view, unique perception of an individual being. We as individuals all carry stories within us, and every story is different from the other ones. Even a similar story gets different with somebody individual voice. So that's how we came out with this book, and I'm calling this a celebration, not a normal book launch. And we have got esteemed poets, intellectuals, writers, authors as our guest speakers today, who will be elaborating on their perspective of what they have read and what they have found in Debashish's book. So I will not waste more of your time. I would rather invite the moderator, the MC of today's evening, Dr. Shutanuka Ghosh-Roy, on stage to carry on with the rest of the program. Thank you so much.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Sharbajita has already briefed us, and esteemed audience, I promise you that what is going to happen in a couple of minutes will be an engaging session. And because we have a studded panel for Didi's book launch, The Age of Listening. May I now call upon stage Raja Chakraborty, Ashok Vishwanathan, Shormila Ray, Gopal Lahiri, and Julie Banerjee Mehta. So I would request all the panelists to formally launch the book. The poet, yes. Yes. Where's the poet? Yes. A big round of applause, please. Thank you all. Now, we are bound by tradition and they are individual talents, so we should honor them. So the felicitation will be done by Mridula Bodi, or Mridula Di, as I call her. She is the co-founder, co-partner of Hawajan, and she is the lady with the lamp. She works in BM Birla, trained, nurse. So she will first felicitate our esteemed panelist, Rajadas. Let's start with Rajada. Ashok Vishwanathan, sir. Shormila Ray, Shormila Di. Yes. Gopal Lahiri, Gopal Da. And now, Julie Di, Julie Banerjee Mehta. Thank you, Mridula Bodi. And Indrani, the young lady, I mean, both are young. So, yes. May I now call upon the poet, the star of the evening, Debashish De. This is a moment which we should freeze into eternity. For the immediate moment will become the immediate past for a photo session with all the, uttorios in their around their neck. So we should have a photo session, which is mandatory part. And this is Didi's debut collection of poetry, as Sharbojidda has already spoken about. Thank you all. May I now proceed with the discussions about the book. First, the first discussion is Raja Chakraborty. Raja or Rajarshi, the name itself tempts us to believe that he should open today's discussion. Rajada, it's a pleasure and an honor to introduce Raja Chakraborty before you all. He's a top-notch bureaucrat. He dons many hats. A bilingual poet with 7 books of poetry in English. Am I right, Rajada? Okay. He is into sports. He's a fine sketch artist, an illustrator, a songwriter. আর রাজাদার মতন ভালো ছড়া বোধহয় বাংলায় কেউ লিখতে পারে না। Isn't it so? And he is someone who will always receive you with a broad grin. Rajada, your comments, observations about Didi's book.
The first impression that I had going through the PDF is that it's like an artist's canvas. That was the first impression I had reading those poems. These poems are like very honest reflections. There is no attempt to use heavy words. There is no attempt to, show you that I know so much. These are very, very honest reflections of how the poet has perceived his surroundings at that very moment. The poems are very sublime, very subtle. What interested me, as I said, like it felt like an artist's canvas, is why one of the major reasons is the use of colors off and on in these poems. The poet, I believe, is an artist also. So that bent of his creative mind has found expression in his poems.
Thank you, Rajadada. You know, after hearing you, I think that you'll have to change your job because you spoke like a pakka professor of English. So, you know, thank you so much. Now we move on to our next panelist, who needs no introduction at all. He is the face of Kolkata, and we are extremely proud and honored to have him, Ashok Vishwanathan. He is a multiple national and international award-winning filmmaker who has been professor and dean at Satyajit Ray Film and Television Institute, Kolkata. He has directed more than 150 film projects, including feature films. I'm just naming, you know, a few of them because his CV is, you know, as long or more long than my arm. Okay, so I'm making it very brief. You know, Shunno Theke Shuru, Kichu Shanglap, Kichu Prolap, etc. He is the president of Poetry Paradigm, the leading society for poets in Eastern India. So we are extremely honored and proud to have you, sir. And I'm looking forward to hearing your comments, observations, you know, about Debashish Dey's The Art of Listening.
Namaskar, thank you very much. Shutanuka, thank you to Hawajan, to Shorbojit, to Mridula. This is not an Oscar-winning speech, but I still have to go through the motions. And of course, DD, it could expand to DDDD, you know. Debashish Dey's debut decision in denouement, you know. So Debashish Dey, whose classmates are also here to cheer him on. I think this is a very important book. The first thing to say is that it is important because, one, it's different, quite different. And from conversations with Debashish and reading the book and also hearing others speak, one gets the impression that he is not a trained poet, nor has he tried to get trained, which is a great thing, because then you don't have all that baggage with you. He's a free spirit. That's what makes it all the more enchanting. And I agree with the previous speaker that we will have more such books from him, a new voice in the realm of English language poetry, but with reference to a whole lot of things. Now, the major elements, and I'll try to be as brief as possible, which we have worked out on reading the poems is, as he himself says in the cover, silence, longing, return. I'd like to add sleep, stillness, solitude, introspection, time, antiquity, and relativity. They're all there in different shades. Let's start with the silence. Now, silence is something which has been defined, or rather, one has demurred from defining. Silence, according to the poet, is not necessarily the absence of anything, least of all sound. It is the presence of something, that is silence. Now, that is a point of debate, which, of course, is welcome, because poets, as they say, are the unacknowledged legislators of the world, and they put across all kinds of theories. It would be nice if poets were to rule the world. We would be certainly in a better position than we are in now, judging by the quagmire that we are sinking into. So his analysis of silence, and the fact that when you read these poems, you feel, some of that silence. And not just the silence, you feel that you've been whispered to. A whisper has certain elements of silence. Understatement, very understated poetry. There was a film by the great filmmaker Ingmar Bergman, or Bergman. If I say Bergman too many times, you might think I'm whistling through my unacknowledged beard, which I'm not. But it's a film called Cries and Whispers, if you see the film. It's a 1973 film which he made, and it featured some of his great actresses like Liv Ullmann and Ingrid Thulin and Harriet Anderson. The end of it, you felt that you were cried to and whispered to. And the entire film hardly used any music except one piece from Bach. This book, this tome, there are many poems here, also left me with a feeling that I was being whispered to. And I could feel the measure of that silence. I had come up with a book myself some years back called Murmurs of Silence. I borrowed that phrase from Michel Foucault's Madness and Civilization, where he says that there was a time in the pre-classical period where there was a dialogue between those who were deemed to be not quite sane. Those were the times when political correctness was not the order of the day. So those who were deemed to be not quite sane and those who were supposed to be sane, there was a dialogue between them, and that dialogue was called the murmur of silence. I find the murmur of silence in Debashish's poetry. There is a stillness here, a very interesting stillness, kind of stillness that I often find in Robert Frost's poetry, Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to see his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and the frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of icy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. And I'm sure the poet has miles to go before he can even think of sleeping, because his poetry reminds me of Robert Frost. It has these elements of introspection, of solitude and simplicity. Simplicity is something very rare. And as another poet from Bengal said, and there is an element of that in his poetry too, Shankho Ghosh, in one of his poems he says, হাতের উপর হাত রাখা খুব সহজ নয়, সারা জীবন বইতে পারা সহজ নয়। এ কথা খুব সহজ, তবু কে না জানে সহজ কথা ঠিক ততটা সহজ নয়। আমার মাথার মধ্যে মাতাল, আমার পায়ের তলায় মাতাল, এই মদের কাছে সবাই ঋণী। ঝলমলে ঘোর দুপুর বেলায় সঙ্গে থাকে গঙ্গা তীরের হাঁ করা ওই চণ্ডালিনী। ওগো আমার সেই সনাতন ভরসাহীনা, তুমি আমার সব সময়ের সঙ্গিনী না? তুমি আমায় সুখ দেবে, তাও সহজ নয়। তুমি আমায় দুঃখ দেবে, তাও সহজ নয়। I find in his poetry not just simplicity, but also complex ideas expressed in a way, as Raja said, communicative. He succeeds in that communication. He touches you somewhere. That's what is very, very important. And yet he comes up with something very profound. I'll not take up much of your time. I'm reminded of Tagore also. Not a poem of Tagore, but rather the interaction with Tagore had with Einstein. And you know they had a very close connection. And towards the end of his life, Tagore wrote this very interesting book called Vishwapurichoy, The Poet and the Universe, which was a book on science, which was very, very strange because he wrote about radioactivity and planetary motion and the periodic table in depth at a time when these theories were coming to the fore with Niels Bohr and Rutherford and others. Tagore, in one interaction with Einstein, differed. They were in a particular room with chairs and tables, they were talking, and as they were about to leave, Tagore said that had we not come here, all this, and he pointed, would not exist. And Einstein said, no, are you crazy? Suppose we hadn't come here, how can you say that this room didn't exist? He says, because we have seen it. We know it as it is. Had we not seen it, I'm not saying that nothing would be there. There would be something, but not this, because we haven't seen it. And Einstein concluded by saying, in that case, I am more religious than you are. So, a very profound thought, which is there in the Einstein-Tagore interactions, which Dr. Partha Ghosh has also written about, and in his poetry such profundity is there. I'll end by talking about the fact that he refers to time. Time is a very important element in his poetry, and a poem called The Rue of Lighted Smoke, or the poem where he talks about poetry. He asks the poem to go, or he asks poetry to go. Echoes from the underground. And to end, I'll just read a little bit from one poem which has touched me. It's called And No One Will Know. No one will know that we walked this earth, that the dust clung to our feet as we wandered through forgotten streets, that the wind once whispered our names through the alleyways of time. No one will know that we sat by the glass-paned door of an old coffee shop, where steam rose from porcelain cups and the air smelled of rain and stories, that we watched a tram rattle past, carrying strangers wrapped in yesterday's thoughts. No one will know that our laughter brushed against old walls, but our hands traced the chipped paint of doors now sealed in silence, that once in the murmur of dusk we sat by the river where the quiet waters held our reflections and never let go. No one will know that the autumn leaves crunched beneath our steps, that we lingered under the flickering street lamps, that the yellow cabs rushed past while we stood still, counting moments like fallen petals on a street that had no name. No one will know that we ran across fields of gold, that the wild grass kept our footprints until the wind swept them away, that we carved verses into the bark of ancient trees, believing poetry could live forever. No one will know that we watched the tide come and go, that the sea sang to us in a language lost to time, that once, atop an unnamed hill, we sat beneath a silent moon with nothing but the sky between us. No one will know that the rain kissed our faces on nights when the world slept, that the scent of jasmine clung to your hair, but I hummed a melody no instrument has ever played. No one will know that we stood at the edge of time, waiting, waiting, before footsteps followed until history erased us and memory turned to dust. And yet, somewhere, a piece of scarf, a note in an old book, a sigh in the wind, a forgotten receipt from an old cafe, a painting half finished, its colors fading like a memory, will whisper, "We were." Thank you.
Though I am a student and teacher of literature, English literature, I don't know, I don't have words, I am falling short of words as to how to thank you, and wish we had more time in our hands to listen to you, Avi sir. Thank you so much. We now quickly move on to our next panelist, Sharmila Ray, the professor of history, an award-winning poet with 19 collections of poetry. She is a non-fiction essayist and editor. She was also an advisory board member with Sahitya Akademi. Her poems have been translated into Urdu, Hindi, Marathi, Bengali, Spanish, Slovene, and Tajik, to name a few. And I have become breathless like Shankar Mahadevan. Put together your hands from Sharmila Di.
And first let me wish the poet a big congratulations, and also to the audience, because without you this program wouldn't have, come out. And so a big thank you to you all, and also to Hawajan for inviting me. As I was, I'm going to talk about my feelings about this book. When I went through this book, what touched me or made me think over the age of listening. The word edge. Edge. What is edge? It is beautiful. It's sharp. It moves forward, beyond, a leap of faith into nothing, perhaps something new. So this age, maybe it takes to something where the age of listening. So what happens when you listen? When you listen for a long time, you become quiet. So you have this quietude in you. And this is very interesting because throughout this whole book, there are many themes, as Ashok has talked about, but this silence is very important, very, very important. A silence which has tongue, a silent tongue, a silence which has teeth, a silent teeth, a silent which has hands, a silent hand. While the tongue caresses, the teeth bites, the hand calms you down. And as you listen, you go on listening, you become quiet. And when you want to go further to hear silence, you have to stop listening and be more quiet so that the whispers of the universe are told to you. And that is exactly what happens in this book, this whole book. And you go through the many parts, there is prologue, I think the wind, what the wind remembers, all these parts, maybe all the parts, but there is one subterranean river running through it, and that is silence, maybe through time, to anything. And silence is not only the absence of rhythm or the absence of sound. It is a very communicative tool, an expressive medium. Before I mean, Debashish, others have used, like, Rilke or Paul Celan, or for that matter, I think Dickinson, they have used it. And when you use it very deftly, when you use it very beautifully, it can create a space of contemplation and also create a space of meditation, which the poet has done in most of his poems. He has used this tool to make it a kind of a vessel, a kind of what can I say, his wand to create, uncreate the various images he has made. Like, in the What the Wind Whispers, like, you see, the wind remembers what the moss keeps secret and the river fails to stay. So you see, he also creates for the audience, for the readers, a space, an emotional space, and also an intelligent way of thinking, so that the readers can engage into the poem in a much more deeper way. So when you go through the poem, you might be thinking, what did the river fail to say? What would I say if I was the poet? So you see, you are reading in a lento fashion, that is reading slowly, and as you read, as a reader, you are also writing the poem. So I think it's indeed a great thing for the poet when the readers take part in the poem and works. Because, no amount of awards or anything can, give that happiness to a poet when the readers engage in what the poet himself has written. And also, you see, this silence, silence also, it sort of creates a form of presence within absence. It doesn't speak, but it creates that space. And also there is a lot of surrealism in his poem. Like, I'm forgetting what's the name of the poet. The stars are wet with sleep. You might say, why? Sleep, wet. How? How can the stars are wet with sleep? Yes, here the wet is not, it is more deep. Wet means you're soaked into that very sleep. And the stars, when you stargaze, the stars sleep doesn't mean, you are absolutely out of this world, because here again, when you sleep, your unconscious self works. So there is another kind of, I feel, a kind of consciousness, a metaphysical thing in his poems also. And here, what I feel, I've been always been thinking, it is a kind of a monologue. All his poems, maybe he's talking to anybody, it can be a cafe, it can be the wind, it can be the stones, it can be anything, but it is a kind of a monologue. And this monologue is not a kind of a wasteland. It is not a wasteland. It is a kind of a space interior where, memory, where doubt, and where identity gets together, and this creates this wonderful book, The Age of Listening. So when you are listening to this, I think when you are listening to a poem, you are reading, you see it is sound. When you are reading also, it is a sound. And this sound also creates ripples within you. And this whole book, it is that other people have said, so I'm not going into the rhythm and into, all the cadences and everything, because those, I think, when the book will get reviewed, people will write that. And without much ado, I would like to finish it, because I want to give the poet his chance to say what made him write this book and to read from his own book. But honestly, this book sort of gave me a great nudge, because it sort of nudge in the sense it made me go to a deeper silence where, you see, when you're very quiet, your inner self comes out, and you can see the colors of the universe in a very in a very beautiful way, like, it becomes like a Victorian quilt with various patches of color, and that's what this poetry does. And I feel this poetry book, this 128 pages of this book, I think, I may be wrong also, maybe 128 pages, but I think it is like a one huge painting with different parts, with stories, half-finished stories, full stories, stories yet to be narrated. Thank you, Debashish, for gifting such a beautiful book to the audience, and I think everybody is going to like it. And please do buy this book, because that would help the publisher and will give a boost to the poet to write more books. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Shutanuka, and thank you, Hawajan, Sharbojit, Mridula. And I'm very happy that I'm here today to talk about a book which is almost, you can say, it's my type of poems which I love to write. You know, there is a lot of noise all around, and noise cancellation is very much important now. And Debashish has done that. He has emphasized on silence, silence, and silence. And of course, with silence, he talks about whisper and stillness. I mean, if you go along with the book, with the poet's journey, you can find what Sharmila says. It's actually a single poem. From start to the end, it's a single poem, even though he has divided into 8 sections, because the theme inside it's silence and stillness. And I just stuck at the page 56, where what actually Debashish wants to be writing in his poetry is, poetry you go, find the bird. I just written a few lines. Poetry you go, gather the shadow. Poetry you go, find the sun. Poetry you go, bring back the rain. Poetry you go, bring the glass that burn going down. Just pour me into that old light and let me drown in the hush before forgetting. And the title of this poem is, Let Me Drown in That Moment. Actually, we all want to get drowned in this particular moment, because poetry, what it actually means, Debashish, according to Debashish, he has mentioned here that poetry go to the bird, go to the shadow, go to the sun, go to the rain, because in one place he has mentioned that rain is like a whole poetry which comes to him, and the fragments are driftwood, which is floating all along. So he is very specific about what he wants to write. There is no hesitation on that front. And you know, when you read the poems, you feel that it's a unfurling of flower petals. There is a silent, and when especially what Raja says, that if you go to the nature, you can feel this silence very much. You can't be in a city life. It's very difficult to feel the impact of silence, because silence here is very loud, and it can only be, you can inhale the essence only either you think amongst inside, and inside your depth you feel that it is there, or you go to a place where the surrounds are absolutely, there is no sound, they are soundless, and you feel that silence is here. And in one of the poems which I just saw yesterday or today itself in the social media, I think in Facebook, he has written one poem there. There he mentioned that the poet actually drops a noise beneath a fern to get it buried and to avoid the noise all around. So these type of very, very intelligent speaking, which I can always say that this type of, the language, especially the language he uses in this book. If you can read it, you can see that the language is very, very, what we can say, very specific, and expression is very nuanced. When you write about anything about silence or anything about, say, introspection, you feel that language should be, the pace will be slow, the texture will be soft, and you can go about that very, very slowly, yet you can apprehend that this may not be the sufficient, you have to do more, you have to think about that much more deeply. And what Ashok Vishwanathan has mentioned very rightly about some of the poets which he has discussed, like Robert Frost, or in Sharmila mentioned about Emily Dickinson. I mean, these are the poets where we have seen these sparks of silence where they mention. And also I'll mention, in addition to that, Yeats, that particular poem, I Want to Go to Innisfree, the lake Innisfree. There also you can feel about this silence. And what important in this particular book is that in poetry, stillness is not just the absence of noise, but a presence that permeates every line, which is very true about Debashish. And it is the pause. I mean, there is a pause between breaths, between line, between stanzas. You feel that there is also the silence is there, and you have to linger on that, and you have to inhale that. That is very, very important. And if you read his poems, you can find very easily about that. And when we read poetry, we are invited to step into the poet's world of stillness. I'm talking about Debashish, not many other poets where there is a lot of noise in the poetry itself. So he is not choosing that path. He chooses the silence as his prompt of his writing. But at the end, he wrote that he will now onwards write about people, about struggle, about war, and about the people. Because sometimes you feel that shout out is also necessary. It's not that always we should be drowned in silence. So that is another aspect. I hope that Debashish will come out in his next book about that aspect. But at least in this book, I'm very, very, what I can say, blown away by this, his use of language, his use of thoughts, and whatever he expresses is really, really mind-blowing. With this, I will end my this talk, because already my he is there. Another speaker is there. So we are already, I think, a bit of running out of time, so I will not continue much. But only thing I can, and we will also listen to Debashish, because we will love to listen what he says about this age of listening and about his poetry, and I'm sure he will read some of his poems. So thank you very much for inviting, and congratulations again to Debashish.
Always a pleasure and an honor to hear you, because you are a poet who speaks a lot about silence and the quietude. We are going to wrap up the session with none other than the one and only Julie Banerjee Mehta. She is an academic, a poet, author of Dance of Life, and co-author of the best-selling biography, Strong Man, The Extraordinary Life of Hun Sen. She has a PhD in English and South Asian Studies from the University of Toronto, where she taught world literature and post-colonial literature. Currently, she is in Kolkata. Toronto's loss is Kolkata's gain. And I think that, it's our literary fortune to have Julie amongst us. and she also teaches the PD students at Loreto College, and is a literary columnist for Chitu, for the Unputdownable Telegraph, and conceptualizes and curates the Rising Asia Circle. Welcome, Julie, to the board.
And Sharbojit and Mridula, so grateful that you've invited me here and honored me with this marvelous panel. Really have learnt already. I want to really say a big congratulations. It's very much in order. I have about 3 or 4 books of poetry lying on my table, and really I would say of well-known poets in the city, and I would say that Debashish, your jouissance, your sense of making history by standing sometimes and looking over the shoulder of someone like T.S. Eliot or John Keats, it all comes to mind that you have shaped something new out of the idea of silence. Silence, silence, as the French poets would say, always comes with a transformation, with a force of transformation. And all throughout this whole book, you see how he uses the idea of quietude, the idea of meditative silence, so effectively to speak. He puts his money where his mouth is. He uses theory in a way that only somebody very, very special with words can convey the idea of silence, and yet make it his tool to tell the story. I want to draw your attention. I don't think many of you have got the book, but this is why I think this book needs to be bought and read. I have an uncanny feeling that this is going to be a book people will talk about. Through the Dust of Empires, I'll read you 2 lines. It is I, returning over again from buried years, to raise again my citadel of memory, dreams, and silent stones and silent spears. Who amongst us cannot recognize the echo of Thomas Stearns Eliot saying, I, Tiresias, the blind prophet, I, Tiresias, remember it all. But how different, how contemporary, how meaningful has it become in the hands of someone as skilled as Debashish. Look at the humor he uses. None of our panelists brought that up. We were all on a very serious path. But I fell in love with the who of light, the street, the road of light. The brothels turned to bistros, serving vegan kokavas. That's a chicken dish. Then he says, butchers painting nudes in his cellar. It was the best meat ever. The transformation of the profane into the spiritual, or the spiritual into the profane, can only be done by the master strokes of a poet like Debashish De. I'll read you a few paragraphs from what I think is one of his best poems in the collection. It's called Sometimes I Just Want to Be the Road. Debashish's, I think, greatest qualifier as a great poet in our contemporary world is the way he manages the idea of transformation. He becomes the road. There's no guessing how good he is at it. Sometimes I just want to be the road. Not the traveler, not the map, but the dark ribbon of forgetting that slips across the entire earth with no need for arrival. So he again is talking as Leonard Woolf, Virginia Woolf's husband, said again and again, it is the journey and not the arrival that matters. So he takes these ideas from the world of literature and he brings it to a great, joyous kind of transformation, which leaves the reader wanting more. So, and leaves the reader challenged as well. So he pretty much mines world literature across space and time. All the things that we see in film, which is image making, and which Ashok spoke about a long time, Shormila spoke about identity, Raja spoke about the whole gamut, and my dear friend here, Gopal, spoke about the essence of why noise needs to be completely erased sometimes, because we don't have that space in the mind to think anymore. But at the end of the day, I think this is almost equal to meditative silence. So congratulations again, Debashish. I'm hoping very much I can do a little bit more for you. I don't know how, but I will try and see if I can promote this book. Thank you.
On this note, I thank all the esteemed panelists for bringing up different perspectives of Didi's book. One book, so many perspectives. Thank you all.
Omitted to mention something which I think is equally important before we hear the poet. Two things actually. One is the illustrations are very interesting. Some of them have a three-dimensional character and they are, in a sense, rather existential in nature. I'm reminded of the collected works of Samuel Beckett. If you look at his book, the last play is something called What, Where. He remains in that particular zone which he began, the theatre of the absurd, way back in 1950. Those illustrations brought to mind those beautiful plays which began with Waiting for Godot. Second is, it's a great credit to Hawajan that they have brought out this kind of a book. It is really an exceptional production, in my opinion. And the brain of those behind, like Shorbojit, Mridula, they need to be given praise for not just organizing this program, but bringing out the book. The book is a formidable book. It's a tour de force, if I may say so. And credit for that has to be given to Hawajan. Let's hope they do more such works. And I'm sure some of the panelists here would love to have their works published by Hawajan. Thank you.
Tongue, as Sharmila Di says, we go on, but it's high time that we wrap up the session. And once again, I thank all the panelists. You may, take your seats over there. And we are waiting for, not for Godot, but we are waiting for Didi. So, where's the poet? Yeah. Okay. So please come and have a seat. And I'm going to have a show with the poet. And, I'm extremely honored to introduce the poet, Debashish De, and former media professional who left a successful corporate career in Mumbai to live among the nomadic tribes in the Himalayas. His work has appeared in the American Chronicle and other platforms. His novel, Murmur of the Lonely Brook. Ashok sir just spoke about of his book, Murmur of the Silence. Here, the name of his novel is Murmur of the Lonely Brook. It supports a grassroots women's health initiative. And are you going to play something? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now, as I, the first time that I heard his story, leaving his successful corporate career, Thomas Wilson, Somerset Maugham's The Lotus Eater, the short story which was, published in 1935, where Mom speaks about a man, Thomas Wilson, who was a banker, and he left his successful career and went to, live in Naples, Italy, and he was mesmerized by the sea, and he forgot everything, and he started living there. So we have a kind of similarity with, Wilson has, or rather Didi has a similarity with Wilson. Now, the first thing is that since when are you writing?
I write well, I draw well, I paint well, I don't speak well. So I can compose the words in me, but I would rather write them well. I mean, I can't speak them that well. I'm not a good speaker. Okay.
I made a mistake. Lotus Eaters is written by Tennyson. Somerset Maugham never wrote any book on
Somerset Maugham wrote the short story known as Lotus Eaters. Yes. Please go and have a look at that.
Yes.
And Lotus Eaters, the first thing you are right, it is an iconic poem by Tennyson, very. Okay, okay. Yes,
Thank
because that is why he listens to silence. Most of us are speakers. We keep on blabbering, buck, 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 buck the entire day, but we hardly listen. And, it takes a lot of patience to listen, and you have listened to the river, to the mountain, to the forests, and whatnot. Tell us something about this book also. Everyone wants to hear. What is your take on your book?
Okay. Sorry, first I will tell about silence. We, like Ashok said and Julie Madam said, that we have stopped listening. We can't listen. Once we are in the city, we cannot listen. What we do when we listen to people, either we are listening him to say something better, or we are listening to give a apt reply. We are not listening for the sake of listening. So what happened was, when I moved from Bombay to Himachal, the first thing which hit me hard was the silence. I mean, it's like going out of a dark room into the sunlight. So when I was in Himachal, I mean, say every place, there were scarcely any people, I mean, hardly 20, 28 families in the village where we stayed. Not more than that. So this is the village where we stayed. Hardly you can see there are 28 homes. So if you just walk down a little, you'll find the river, you'll find the stones, you'll find the view of the mountains, you'll find everything apart from people. So once you start walking there, without the noise of a cell phone, without the noise of a mail, without the noise of a notification, without the radio, without the television, nothing. Absolutely. So then your senses start opening. I mean, you can feel a lot of things which you normally won't feel when you are in the city or when you are within people, when you are inside a room. This is the village we stayed. It looks beautiful, it looks picturesque, but it's not the same scene throughout the year. It's only for 6 months. What happens after 6 months? After 6 months, this is the thing where we stayed. Basically, most of the families, 90% of them moved down. Hardly 7-8 people staying out there, and I was among them. Even my wife moved down, so that's around -15 or -17 kind of temperature where we stayed.
The cat stayed with you?
Two cats. Two cats stayed with. And of course, the village people was there, who of course inspired me for the first story of the non-fiction which I wrote. These are some of the village peoples whom we met, friends with, and their story inspired me to put down on the novel, which we can't imagine even while living in the city. Like one of my friends said today that we never imagined this kind of a life could exist in normal these things. I mean, each of these three ladies, they live with 3, 4 or 5 husbands. That's polyandry, still in practice out there. So what was basically going back of my mind was how do they feel, how do they divide their love or whatever it is among this, and still they keep smiling, keep walking, keep doing these things. So you'll have to read that story, you'll have to read my book to get to know those things. Plus we were very much touched by the majestic views which was all around. Everything, starting from nature to starting from the people, starting from the culture, starting from their cultural festivals, everything. And I had my partner out there whom I used to take from one hills to another and one village to another. We used to travel a lot. This is the next thing is in front of our house where we used to stay. This is the kind of valley which greeted us every morning when we opened our windows, but it was hardly for 3 hours. And these are my students, who helped us, kill the time, just teaching them something or these things. Since school was closed, everything was closed for 6 months. So they came to me to learn something, whatever, be it their studies, be it English or whatever. And of course, through and through, I had the support of this lady, my wife, sitting over there.
A big round of applause for her.
When I left Bombay, basically in Bombay, I was heading of corporate, this thing in media and television. She never objected. She came with me. Living that life with cars, with apartments and with all kind of facilities. We just left everything, we went with our 2 cats. So it was a totally different experience. Now, what I say in summary is in Himachal, my senses opened. In the absence of noise, I began to listen to the wisdom of the mountains, which we don't listen. The mountains, every ridge, every fold, there's a story. The mountains folded up. They were not there from the beginning. So every fold might have some story hidden inside. The language which was aged in tree barks, there were trees which were 100 years old, which were 200 years old, or maybe 2 or more centuries old. Even the grass, they spoke. So not in words, but you can't tell them, those are the words. So when I used to return every day evening from my walk or after roaming around a bit, I used to write. That was the place where we started writing. This is one part of the story. The other part is, during my days in media, I have traveled a lot, all across the world, most of the places, and some of the places where I went definitely had big stories in them. It's you know part of it from history or you know part of it from the internet or wherever, but you can feel it once you go there. Places like, say, Istanbul or Turkey. If you walk the streets, you can feel there are 7 layers of civilization hidden within. Starting from the days of Macedonia, the Constantinople, starting from the Ottomans, starting from, today. So every layer, every cafe, every place we went, there was this wall and there was another hidden wall. There was this street and there was another hidden street below it. Everywhere. Next, when I went to other places like Scotland, even if you go there, the fields are empty. The mountains are standing out there. But you can feel the story inside. There's a lot of stories in out there. If you go to the monasteries, say this one is the key monastery on top. So even the monasteries, the monks are silent. They don't speak. The people out there, the students out there, the disciples out there, they're all silent. They may be chanting something of these things, but there is a story. But there is a story. So even like, I think she was reading something from my poetry on Paris. That yes. Yeah. So Paris had a story. Paris has the glitter, has the glamour, and there is history, there is a story. Like, this is a view from the deserts of Wadi Ram. So you go there, you stand there, and if you close your eyes, maybe you can see the Lawrence of Arabia riding through the desert, coming straight to you. I mean, either greeting or this thing. I mean, I sat there with the Bedouins and they offered me to stay the night with them. So I stayed there. The entire night, below the moon, it was no moon, so below the stars. And they treat me with the food and this thing, so we stayed in the tent. That's a different story. Next to Wadi Ram, if you just go down a little, you'll come across another place, which is Petra. Again, there are stories in every reach, every fold, everything, that way. Another place where we know it's a tourist attraction, we don't know the stories, but you'll have to meet the locals. By locals, I mean the Indians who stay there, is the Grand Canyon. So if you meet the Indians there, you will know, I mean, what kind of stories exist and what kind of things do. I'll come to the thing later.
Okay.
You want me to speak about the book?
As I was listening to you, here we find that, there is poetry without ink. Each word bleeds with unfiltered emotions, raw, unfiltered emotions. The forest remembers, the sky whispers, the river beckons to surrender. Allow the form to float. She murmurs, and I shall bear the spirit. The silence will hold you. The quiet will carry you. And, it's such an honor to listen to your stories, though you have repeatedly told us that you are not a good speaker, but you are a true rancotier. So, you speak, your poetry speaks so well to the readers.
Let's hear Shutanuka read out one of my poems.
Thank you, Didi. I'll read The Quiet Will Carry You. This is in page 37. For the space between sorrow and light. You don't need to explain the ache to the trees. They have braved 1,000 storms, shed leaves without apology. You don't need to name the sorrow to the river. It moves around stone, not through it, and still finds its own reflection. You don't need to heal all at once. Just sit where the light drips in. The silence will hold you. The quiet will carry you. Such a lovely poem, and it will stay with me, forever. And will you please read a couple of poems?
No. In my case, what I did was, I got in touch with a young guy who wants to be a narrator. His name is Stuart. His name is Stuart Griggs. Griggs. He is based in London. So he said, Didi, I will do your narrations and these things. Okay, fine. I know he does not have that kind of expression or that kind of sensation or that kind of feel. But still, he reads it out and at least we can listen to him. You can't listen to me. Okay. Let's listen a few lines from him.
City sings in restless light. Its towers burn beneath the sun. But buried beneath that golden weight, another city dreams undone.
Anyway, now we'll come to one poem which is the prologue in the book, which basically covers the theme of silence in a short and complete way. Let's listen to that.
Where silence isn't absence, it's presence retaining the shape of what the world neglected to say. The sea, the mountain, and the forest all listen in their own ancient way, not with ears, but with memories. These are the lines we cross without knowing it. The wind turns into words, the stone becomes into scripture, and the leaves remember what we haven't yet learnt to feel. Stand here at the edge of listening. Let the world be quiet and become what you hear.
Some of the poems, they wanted to sing. I mean, I felt like that they can be very beautiful songs. So when poetry finds its melody, it becomes something more. So here is one of my poem. What I did was I have to rewrite it again for a song, and at the same time added the music, added the meter, added the instruments which goes with that kind of a song. See, I wanted a few songs to go like a Scottish folk. So after which I used AI to generate a voice which complements that kind of a music and these things. Why? Because when I went to an artist, they charge too much. For a real music artist who can definitely do justice to this song, a poor poet cannot afford that. It's impossible for me. And they will ask for rights, they will ask for this, they will ask for that. So I said, okay, fine, AI is fine with me. As long as I can convey the true depth of the music or the true depth of the words, AI is fine with me. So listen to it.
Is Rajada here? Rajada, you know, he is also a songwriter.
Fantastic.
And he has also written a poem on this, that it is not easy to write a song. We just, you know, had a book launch of Rajada's book, 65 ways of talking and talk and forget. So, you know.
I will read that book.
Yeah, you should. And, from that songwriter to this songwriter, my journey comes to an...
Full circle.
Yeah, full circle.
Let's listen.
So, let's listen.
The sea remembers each whispered name. The mountain stands in quiet flame. The forest hums so old, so wise, with memory deep beneath the skies. Like mist across the moor, and knock on hearts we don't secure. We cross the lines we never see, where wind speaks soft like poetry, where stones recall what time forgets, and the leaves hold what the song regrets. So stand ye still, don't flee or fear. Let silence tell you why you're here. Let the world fall quiet.
This is so... Why the age of silence? Or the age of listening?
The age of listening. yeah.
Yes.
Like I think Julie Madam said, or Sharmila Madam said, the age is a sharp object. Is she there? Huh. I think she better, she put it in a better way, much better way. Age is always sharp. Age, we are always standing at some age, I mean some form of age, or that way. So this is the age of silence. The next one which I'm writing is the age of existence.
Looking forward to reading it.
Yeah, basically, apart from studying nature, I have also studied people. People in different form, people in different shapes, people in different circumstances. So, this has, of course, contributed to many lines which are still resting in my books or notebooks rather, just to see the day of the line. So that's the next book. So that will be another age of existence.
Thank you so much. We can now...
No, I want to speak about my cats.
Cats. So this is Catanama.
No, we live with cats. My wife's world, see, if you break it up in 4 parts, 3/4 of them are cats. 1/4 is me and my daughter. I mean, we have 6 cats at home. We have 7 cats. 1 cat lives in Mumbai and 6 cats lives with us. The Mumbai cat is there, my daughter. Tanya, can I see your hand? Yeah. She is there. She lives in Mumbai. And the other 6 cats, they live with us. So, in Kolkata.
What about the Kilkenny cats?
Okay.
Yeah.
No, nothing. 2 died, so 6 are left, and it keeps on changing. I mean, another stray cat has just come in, so they keep on coming and going. Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, may I recite a very short poem? I was inspired by your poetry, but in Bengali. আপনার আপত্তি নেই তো?
না, কেন থাকবে?
বাঘের চোখ সূর্য যখন নামে গোদলি আকাশ থেকে সব প্রাণী যায় তার আশ্রয় সন্ধানে শুধু প্রাকৃতিক একা ভূমির বুকে কিন্তু বিপদ যখন বনে এক ভয়ঙ্কর দিনের মাকড়সার জাল শুধু 2টি চোখ উজ্জ্বল হয়ে ওঠে অন্ধকার জঙ্গলে নীরবে তাকিয়ে থাকে তার শিকারের অপেক্ষায়
বাহ, খুব ভালো লাগলো আপনার কবিতা শুনে স্যার। Thank you so much. We now open the floor. I now open the floor for any kind of questions, observations, commentaries.
Thanks for a marvelous presentation. Simply, mind-boggling. What I, really appreciate is your lion-heartedness, to leave the corporate, the privileges of corporate life and to land straight in a distant, remote village of Himachal requires the heart of a lion, which undoubtedly you have.
Thank you so
Otherwise,
much.
you couldn't have done this, And that second part, you said, wonderful. What I liked wonderful about this part of your, presentation in the age of science is, you have that fact that you have been able to commune with nature, the sky, the mountains, the leaves, the trees, the caves. And it's simply amazing. That's what was ancient India. Our sages used to retire in the snow tops, in the mountains, to commune with nature. With the mountains, with leaf, with the trees, with the stones, with the caves. And gradually, the truth would unfold. And one day they would realize the truth. It's wonderful that in this modern era, you have gone back to the, ancient times. So it's simply, wonderful.
Thank you so much.
And that part, one thing which my question is, you mentioned the monasteries. The monasteries where the monks are in silence. So because the essential truth in ancient, our Indian way of thinking is, in peace and quiet, in silence, the eternal truth can be known. The eternal truth can be experienced. The eternal truth can be realized. That's why the monks are silent. Because as the Buddha says, that the inner light, be a light unto yourself. you find the light within you. That's why they are silent, you know. So since you have been in this, you have experienced this peace, this quietude, this silence, this communion with the skies, the mountains, the leaves, the trees, and nature. How far, or have you been able to have a glimpse, if a glimpse of that eternal truth, of that light, you know, the light within ourselves, the light unto ourselves? So that's my question.
It's a big discussion, so it will ask for maybe a coffee or something more. Let's sit another day on this. Thank you.
Okay.
You being basically a Bengali, have you expressed any poem in your own mother tongue?
Yes, of course.
Oh, I see. And poetry is something which is expressed through a stream of consciousness. We are not even aware of it. We're not aware of the stream of consciousness. The ideas keep flowing. Something very remarkable that happens within you. You felt it that way, I suppose.
Yes, of course.
Thank you. I now invite, yeah, we have another. Okay. Yeah, sure.
Well, Didi has been my school friend, so, and I know him right from childhood days, all thing, but his creativity has really flourished from college days, that is what he says. And besides his prolific poems that we have just listened to, he is also a very good painter. I would, in case many people do not know, he does some excellent charcoal painting and some coffee painting, Didi.
Yes, of course.
And his Sangla days, I think the Himachal Pradesh days, we had a Yahoo group in those days, and daily we used to look forward, he used to write daily in that Yahoo group, his daily experiences, so we used to look forward to his daily experiences in Sangla, which is as fascinating as this new book is. And I definitely wish him all the very best for this book, and I feel this is a great effort by Hawajan. Sharbojita is also a childhood friend of mine. Thank you.
It's really wonderful to see so many.
I will want to add one more thing. You know, I was his bench mate. Okay, so we were together. To really just go deeper into creativity, there's only one thing I would say. There are silent bodmaish. And we both were silent.
Another perspective.
Yes, silent bodmaish in the front row. And hence he has to be a creator. Thank you.
You know, it's really nice and wonderful to see so many of his childhood friends coming and, you know, lending their weight behind this age of listening. And I now, you know, hand over the stage.
My childhood tutor is here, who first opened the doors of English to me, Mr. Prasenjit Mitra. He would like to put in a few words.
When he was in class 9, I started teaching him, and I taught him science, right? I was engaged to teach him science. His elder sister is here. But most of the days he would tell me, আগে আপনি বাংলা এই কবিতাটা লিখেছি পড়ুন, মানে বাংলা একটা কবিতা, not English. He told that he started writing from college days, but I think he used to write it from his school days. And one thing I can say, and if you just remember that from class 9 till now we are in touch, because only few of my students, there are some others also, who are as creative as he is. I have met some brilliant students, he's one of them, and just a few things I want to say. When I used to do some maths problem for him, he used to take it down, learn it, and the next day he will ask, what if I do it the other way? Maybe sometimes he was wrong, but some of the times his ideas were on the right track. So in science, it is basically to be on the right track rather than find a solution, to be on. So that is, in science, that is, the road is more important than the destination. So I thought from very early childhood, he was a gifted person. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. You know, this is really a rewarding moment. A teacher paying tribute to his student. This is, you know, an epiphanic moment for any student. So, I now, before formally, yes, I now invite Mridula Di to formally, you know, give the vote of thanks, the formal vote of thanks. And before that, I would like to express my deep gratitude to Hawajan, to Sharbojidda, to Mridula Di, and of course to Didi for giving me this opportunity to moderate today's session, and to the wonderful audience for bearing with me. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Have to, without felicitation, our MC never complete our program. So please felicitate it.
My last question, how is your artwork connected to your poems?
You have to buy the book first.
Just
With
you
every-
felicitate.
You will know once you read the poetry.
There are
You'll
copies.
see that.
You can go and grab a copy.
Felicitate karo, okay. No. Without your felicitation. Yes, and that give back. Thank you. Thank you. Gratitude to the entire elite group present here. To begin with, I thank the author Debashish De for keeping faith in Hawajan and publishing his wonderful creations. Thank you, Debashish. I'm grateful to the panelists, Sri Ashok Vishwanathan, Sri Gopal Lahiri, Srimati Shormila Ray, Srimati Julie Mehta, and Sri Raja Chakraborty for their deep and eclectic observations and discussions on the books. Thank you all. I'm also thankful to Srimati Kakuli and Miss Tania, the proud wife and daughter of our author, for their presence and support. Thank you. My gratitude goes to the esteemed guest, audience, and friends, without whose quintessential presence this event would not have been successful. My special thanks to the coordinator of Oxford Bookstore, Ms. Shanchari, and her entire team for incessant support to conduct this program. Thank you, Shanchari. I heartily convey my thanks to the cafe and crunchy refreshment. I have no words to thank our MC, Dr. Shutanuka Ghosh Roy, who curated the program flawlessly. Last but not the least, I am utterly grateful to the creative director of Hawajan, Mr. Sharbojit Sarkar, the man behind this grand show. Thank you all.